in the heart of a vast African savanna, where the golden grasses swayed under the gentle breeze and the sun painted the sky in shades of amber and crimson, lay the village of Katala. It was a place where the old and young lived in harmony with nature, and stories of ancestors and legendary heroes were passed down like precious treasures. Among the villagers was Enmei, a bright and curious girl of 16, whose eyes sparkled with wonder and whose heart was brimming with dreams beyond the familiar paths of her village. She lived with her mother and younger brother in a modest hut made of sun-baked clay, its roof adorned with vibrant patterns her mother had painted over the years. Enma was known for her cleverness, her kindness, and her love for the stories that danced through the village during the evening gatherings. The village was alive with excitement as the annual harvest festival approached. This festival was unlike any other, for it was said that the young prince from the neighboring kingdom, a figure shrouded in mystery and admired for his bravery and wisdom, sometimes visited during the celebrations. Stories whispered by the elders spoke of his kindness and courage, and many villagers dreamed of catching a glimpse of him. Enmei, though grounded in her love for her home, could not help but imagine what it would be like to meet someone so extraordinary. As the festival day arrived, the village transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. Stalls were lined with woven baskets filled with fruits, spices, and handcrafted ornaments. Children ran through the streets laughing, their faces painted with intricate designs. Drummers beat rhythms that echoed through the open plains, while dancers, adorned in feathers and beads, swirled in harmony with the music. The scent of roasted yams and sweet millet cakes filled the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly plowed fields. Enmei moved through the crowd with her younger brother, her heart racing with anticipation. For this was the day of magic and wonder. While the villagers were engrossed in festivities, Enmei noticed a small crowd gathered near the edge of the marketplace, where the elders had erected a ceremonial stage. Curiosity led her closer, and as she approached, her eyes widened. Standing tall and regal, yet with a warmth that drew people in, was the prince himself. His clothes were simple, yet elegant, adorned with subtle embroidery that reflected the sunlight. There was a gentle dignity in his posture, a quiet strength that seemed to command respect without demanding it. Enmei felt an inexplicable pull toward him, a mixture of awe and recognition. As if their paths were meant to cross, the prince was observing the villagers with a keen interest, listening intently to their stories and laughter. Enmei's gaze met his, and for a fleeting moment, time seemed to pause. She noticed a softness in his eyes that contrasted with the tales of bravery she had heard. He smiled briefly, and she felt a warmth in her chest she had never known before. But the crowd was restless, and soon the prince turned away to greet others, leaving Enmei with a swirl of emotions, wonder, curiosity, and an unspoken longing to know more about this mysterious visitor. The festival continued with competitions of skill and artistry. Enmei participated in weaving and storytelling, earning admiration from the villagers for her creativity and sharp mind. Yet, her thoughts kept drifting back to the prince, wondering what stories he carried from his distant kingdom and whether he, too, was captivated by the magic of Kitala. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of deep orange and violet, lanterns were lit, casting a soft glow over the village. The drums softened, and the elders began a storytelling circle around the central fire. Inmei settled near the fire, clutching a small charm her mother had given her for courage. She listened to tales of bravery, cleverness, and destiny, feeling a growing sense that her own life might soon be touched by extraordinary events. That night, as the village slept under a blanket of twinkling stars, Inmei could not shake the feeling that the festival had set the stage for something remarkable. Little did she know, the encounter with the prince was only the beginning, and the threads of fate were already weaving their story, one that would carry her far beyond the familiar fields of Kitala. The gentle whispers of the wind seemed to carry promises of adventure, courage, and a journey that neither she nor the prince could yet imagine. The morning after the festival, the village of Kitala seemed quieter, yet carried a lingering excitement. The drums had faded, but the stories and laughter of yesterday still echoed in Enmei's mind. She woke early, her curiosity and sense of wonder pulling her toward the fields near the edge of the village, where the tall grasses danced with the morning breeze. Today, she felt, would be different. Something intangible stirred in her heart, a whisper that adventure was near. As Inmei wandered along the narrow dirt paths, humming a tune her mother had taught her, she heard a sudden rustle behind a cluster of wildflowers. Startled, she turned to see a figure stepping lightly from the shadows. Her breath caught there, standing amidst the golden grasses, was the prince. He looked almost as if he had emerged from the legends themselves, his presence serene yet commanding. His eyes, warm and intelligent, met hers, and for a heartbeat, the world around them seemed to vanish. "Good morning," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying the authority of someone who had seen many lands. "I hope the festival did not tire you." Enmei blinked, trying to steady her racing heart. I enjoyed it," she stammered, her voice betraying the nervous excitement she felt. "It was magical." The prince smiled, a gesture that seemed to light up the fields around them. "Magical, indeed. And yet, I believe magic is not only in festivals or grand gestures. Sometimes it is in the small moments, the laughter of children, the kindness of strangers, the courage of a single heart." Enma felt a shiver of recognition, as if his words had been spoken just for her. She realized she had always admired bravery, not the kind sung in stories, but the quiet, steadfast courage people showed daily. I like to believe that, too," she replied. For a moment, they walked in silence, the soft wind carrying scents of wildflowers and earth. The prince turned to her, curiosity glimmering in his eyes. "Tell me, Enmei, do you ever dream of places beyond this village?" Enmei hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I imagine lands with vast rivers, mountains that touch the sky, and forests that whisper secrets. But I have never been beyond the fields of Ketala. Perhaps one day, if fate allows." The prince studied her for a moment, his gaze thoughtful. "Fate has a way of answering the brave," he said. "I have traveled through many lands, yet I have never met someone with such clear eyes and a bold spirit. You remind me that courage is often hidden in places least expected." Emei's cheeks flushed, a mix of pride and surprise. She had never imagined a prince would notice her, much less speak so sincerely. Yet she felt a strange sense of familiarity, as though they were connected by invisible threads stretching across kingdoms and forests. Waiting to be tugged by destiny, suddenly, A loud cry echoed from the village. Inmei and the prince exchanged a glance, and without a word they ran toward the sound. A young boy had been trapped near the riverbank, caught by the fast-rising waters after yesterday's festival celebrations. Enmei's heart pounded, but the prince's calm presence gave her courage. Together they devised a plan. The prince extended a rope, and Enmei guided the frightened boy toward it. With careful precision, they pulled him to safety. The villagers, who had gathered anxiously, erupted in cheers, grateful and awed by the duo's bravery. As the boy thanked them, Enmei realized the prince's words were true courage often appears in the smallest acts, and perhaps destiny was already at work, weaving their paths together through challenges, courage, and shared adventure. The prince turned to her once more, a hint of a smile on his lips. Enmei, today you have shown the heart of a hero. Remember, the journey has only begun. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, illuminating the fields in golden light, Enmei felt a surge of excitement she had never known. The encounter had changed her world. The festival, once a distant dream, now felt like the doorway to an extraordinary adventure. And as she watched the prince stride confidently back toward his carriage, she knew deep in her heart that their meeting was no coincidence. Something remarkable was unfolding, and Enmei would be ready when destiny called again. The days after the festival passed quickly, yet the excitement of Enmei's encounter with the prince lingered like a melody she could not forget. The village returned to its rhythm, but Enma felt a restlessness in her heart. She knew life in Kitala was peaceful, yet part of her yearned for the adventure hinted at during that morning meeting. Little did she know that the call of destiny would arrive sooner than she imagined. One afternoon, as Enmei collected water from the village well, a sudden shout echoed through the fields. Villagers ran toward the northern edge of Kitala, where the thick forest began. Enmei's pulse quickened. Something was wrong. Without hesitation, she followed the crowd and soon saw the cause. A group of bandits, strangers with darkened faces and glinting weapons, had appeared near the outskirts. They were not ordinary thieves. Their presence exuded menace, and the villagers whispered fears of a curse or dark magic. The bandits demanded tribute, threatening to destroy the crops and homes if their demands were not met. Panic rippled through the villagers, but Enmei's eyes sought out the prince. As if drawn by the urgency, he appeared at the edge of the commotion, his calm composure inspiring courage. He surveyed the scene, noting the fear in the villagers' eyes and the aggression of the bandits. "We must act carefully," he said to Enmei. "Courage alone will not save us. Wisdom and strategy are needed." Enmei felt a surge of determination. She had admired bravery from afar, but now, faced with real danger, she realized she must act. "What can I do to help?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. The prince considered her, then smiled faintly. "You have a sharp mind and a brave heart. Observe the forest closely. It may hold the answer." Together, they retreated to the tree line, assessing the terrain. Enmei noticed a series of natural traps, fallen logs, hidden streams, and thorny bushes that could slow or confuse intruders if used wisely. Drawing on her knowledge of the village and surrounding lands, she began devising a plan. The prince listened intently, impressed by her insight and courage. As the bandits advanced toward the village center, Enmei and the prince moved into action. Using clever distractions, they led the bandits into the natural traps Enmei had identified. A log fell just as a bandit stepped forward, sending him tumbling into the underbrush. A narrow stream diverted another, while thick, thorny bushes blocked their path, leaving them disoriented. Enmei's quick thinking, paired with the prince's presence and authority, gave the villagers time to regroup and defend their homes. Yet one bandit, taller and more cunning than the others, pushed past the traps, heading directly for the village granary. Enmei's heart raced. She knew this could devastate the villagers' food supply if left unchecked. The prince moved to intercept him, but Enmei felt a sudden surge of resolve. "I can stop him," she said, and sprinted forward, recalling an old technique her father had taught her for luring and trapping intruders without causing harm. With careful timing, she led the bandit into a narrow path bordered by thorny bushes, where he became ensnared and unable to move. Breathing heavily, Enmei turned to see the prince approaching, a proud smile lighting his face. "Well done, Enmei," he said. "Your courage and cleverness have saved the village." The villagers, who had been watching anxiously, erupted into cheers, their fear replaced by awe and gratitude. The bandits, realizing their plan had failed, retreated into the forest, leaving the village unharmed. Enmei's bravery and quick thinking had not only protected her home, but had also earned the admiration of the prince and every villager. Yet, despite the celebration, Enmei sensed that this challenge was only the beginning. The forest, the bandits, and the mysterious forces at play hinted at adventures far beyond Katala, where courage, wisdom, and friendship would be tested in ways she could not yet imagine. As night fell, the village gathered around the central fire once more. Enmei sat beside the prince, both of them gazing at the stars that glittered above the savannah. "You have a rare spirit, Enmei," the prince said softly. "I have traveled through many lands, met many people, but few possess the balance of heart and mind that you have shown today. Remember this feeling. It will guide you when the journey ahead becomes even more demanding." Enmei smiled, a mixture of pride, wonder, and anticipation filling her heart. She knew that her life in Kitala would never be the same. The encounter, the bandits, and her first taste of real adventure had opened a door to a world she had only dreamed of. And as the flames danced and shadows played across the faces of her fellow villagers, she felt destiny's whisper once more, promising that greater challenges and greater discoveries. The morning after the bandit incident, the village of Kitala seemed calmer. Yet Enmei could not shake the sense that the adventure had only begun. The prince, impressed by her bravery and wisdom, approached her with a proposal. "Enmei," he said, "there is a matter in my kingdom that requires courage, cleverness, and a heart unafraid of the unknown. I would be honored if you accompanied me." Enmei felt a rush of excitement and fear. Traveling beyond the familiar fields of Kitala had always been a dream, yet the thought of leaving her family and home was daunting. After a moment, she nodded, her resolve firm. "I will go. I want to help." By mid-morning, the villagers had bid them farewell. Enmei rode on a sturdy mule beside the prince, her eyes wide with wonder at the landscapes stretching beyond her village. The path led them through golden savannas, dotted with acacia trees, rivers that shimmered like molten silver under the sun, and hills that rose and fell like the waves of a gentle sea. Enmei marveled at every sight, the graceful flight of a flock of birds, a herd of elephants grazing peacefully, and the distant mountains that seemed to touch the sky itself as they traveled. The prince shared tales of his kingdom, of distant lands and customs, and of challenges he had faced in protecting his people. Inmei listened intently, absorbing every detail, and shared stories of Kittalad, the clever solutions the villagers devised, the clever riddles she had solved as a child, and the lessons of kindness and courage she had learned at home. Their bond deepened with every mile, each conversation revealing the heart and spirit of the other. Their journey was not without danger. On the third day, a sudden storm forced them to take shelter in a dense forest. Rain poured down, drenching them, and lightning illuminated the sky in jagged flashes. They huddled under the broad leaves of a baobab tree, using branches and rocks to keep the mud from sweeping their campsite away. Despite the discomfort, Enmei discovered a resilience within herself she had never known, and the prince, impressed by her calm determination, praised her ingenuity in creating a dry, safe space to wait out the storm. The next day brought another challenge. Crossing a wide river, they encountered a fallen tree that blocked their path. The current was strong, and the water teemed with unseen dangers. Enmei, recalling lessons from her childhood about reading the land and water, suggested a clever method: to cross safely using vines and fallen branches as supports. Together, they constructed a makeshift bridge, supporting each other as they stepped carefully across. The prince's admiration for her skill and courage grew, and he remarked, "Few I have met possess the wisdom and bravery you show. Katala has raised a remarkable soul." Evenings were spent under starlit skies, the African night alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures and the whisper of the wind. Enmei and the prince shared dreams and fears, laughter and silence, learning that friendship and trust were as vital as bravery and skill. Enmei felt a deepening respect and affection for the prince. But more importantly, she discovered a new confidence in herself. The journey was teaching her that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. On the fifth day, they reached the edge of a vast desert, the sands shimmering under the afternoon sun. The prince explained that a mystical artifact, essential to the safety of his kingdom, had been lost here many years ago. Their mission was clear: navigate the treacherous sands, find the artifact, and return it safely. Inmei felt both excitement and nervous anticipation. This challenge, unlike the bandits or the storms, would test every skill she had and every lesson she had learned. As they stood at the threshold of the desert, the prince placed a reassuring hand on Enmei's shoulder. "Together, we will succeed. Your courage, your wisdom, and your heart will guide us." Enmei nodded, feeling a surge of determination. The journey had changed her. She was no longer just the clever girl from Kitala, but a brave adventurer ready to face the unknown. With a final glance at the lush lands they were leaving behind, Enmei and the prince stepped into the golden sands, ready to confront whatever trials awaited them. After days of traversing deserts, rivers, and forests, Enmei and the prince finally reached the ancient ruins where the mystical artifact was said to be hidden. The desert winds howled around them, carrying whispers of old legends and the promise of discovery. Sand shifted beneath their feet as they approached the crumbling stone structures, remnants of a civilization long forgotten. Enmei's heart raced with anticipation, and the prince's steady gaze reassured her that together they could face any challenge. Inside the ruins, they encountered a series of puzzles and traps, each one more intricate than the last. Enmei's sharp mind and keen observation proved invaluable. She noticed subtle carvings on the walls, patterns in the floor tiles, and faint echoes that hinted at hidden mechanisms. With careful reasoning and the prince's guidance, they navigated each obstacle, avoiding pitfalls and unlocking doors that had remained sealed for centuries. The closer they came to the artifact, the more Enmei realized how far she had come from a curious girl of Kitala to a confident adventurer capable of facing danger with courage and wisdom. At last, they entered the central chamber, where the artifact rested on a pedestal of carved stone. It glowed softly with a golden light, illuminating the room with warmth and wonder. Enmei stepped forward, her hand trembling slightly as she reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the artifact, a gentle hum filled the air, and a vision appeared before them, images of the prince's kingdom thriving, protected, and at peace. She realized that their efforts had not only been a test of bravery, but also a means to secure hope for countless lives. The prince smiled, pride and gratitude shining in his eyes. Enmei, you have shown courage, intelligence, and a heart that can guide nations. Without you, I could not have succeeded. Enmei blushed, humbled by his words, yet felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced fear, solved challenges, and discovered the true strength within herself. Their journey back to the kingdom was filled with excitement and stories of triumph. Villagers and travelers along the way marveled at the tales of their courage and cleverness. When they finally returned, the kingdom celebrated their heroes with music, dance, and a grand feast. Banners fluttered in the wind, and the streets were lined with people eager to honor the brave duo. Children laughed and cheered, inspired by Enmei's bravery and the prince's wisdom. During the celebration, the king approached Enmei, his eyes kind and approving. "You have done more than we could have imagined," he said. "Your courage and wisdom have safeguarded our future. Kitala should be proud to call you one of its own." Enmei bowed respectfully, feeling a swell of pride for her home and family. She realized that while the adventure had changed her, it had also strengthened the bonds with her roots, her village, and her loved ones. As night fell, lanterns illuminated the kingdom, casting a magical glow over the celebrations. Enmei and the prince stood together on a balcony overlooking the festivities, their hearts full of gratitude and shared accomplishment. The journey had forged an unbreakable bond between them, built on trust, respect, and courage. The prince placed a hand on Enmei's shoulder. "This is only the beginning, Enmei. There will be more adventures, more challenges, and more wonders to discover. But tonight, we celebrate what we have achieved together." Enmei smiled, her eyes reflecting the shimmering lanterns and the stars above. She had grown from a curious village girl into a courageous adventurer, and in the process she had discovered the strength of her spirit and the power of destiny. The kingdom's music and laughter filled the air, and she felt a deep sense of joy and belonging as the festival continued into the night. Enmei knew that the stories of her bravery would be told for generations, inspiring others to follow their hearts and embrace courage. The prince and she had faced challenges, forged bonds, and uncovered the true meaning of adventure. And while the celebrations would eventually end, the journey, the lessons learned, and the friendships formed would last forever. Enmei looked up at the stars, feeling the gentle whisper of destiny, knowing that this was only the first chapter of a life filled with wonder, courage, and magic.